Hello, folks. My name is James Bach. With me here is Karen Johnson, my colleague of many years. Uh, Karen and I have been working on a book called Taking Testing Seriously. Karen wrote a little chapter in that book. The book's going to come out in November of 2025. We're excited about it. So I wanted to talk to Karen here about what she wrote. And she wrote a chapter on learning, on how learning is fundamental to a technical work. So, welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Good to be here. It's always good to hang out and chat with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it. Why tell us that learning is important? Why write a chapter on learning? Isn't it obvious? Everybody knows you have to learn. Everybody learns. So, what's so special about this that you're going to write a whole chapter on it?
I, I definitely have some thoughts I want to share. So, one is that I was lucky, truly fortunate to have been on a sabbatical when I wrote this chapter. So, I think in our field, like we're time starved and we're always going up against the clock and, shipping software, and it's a very fast-paced field. But I had had the luxury of taking a sizable amount of time off. And when I looked back at my career, one of the things that came to me is how often I had to learn. And I had never really thought about it so, isolated so distinctly. It was having the time. Now, ironically, as I'm looking back now at when I wrote the chapter, at the time, I was also trying to learn something. So I went back to photography. It is one of those fields that, you leave it for 5 years and the whole thing has changed again because the software has changed and we're not, shipping canisters to somebody to develop it. You're developing it yourself. And it's incredibly software dependent at this point. And so I was struggling. Like I was really rusty in photography and I was, trying to take all these classes and I was trying to learn it. I was really focused on learning at the time. But I also, when I was looking back at my career, thought, why? I've spent a lot of time learning. And a true thing that I tell friends and family that I've never really shared, like I've never shared with a colleague because that would just be weird. Like it would never come up. But when people ask me, like, what might it be like if I were to, try to join tech? I always say to people, I say this a lot. If you need to be the master of something, like really feel like you're the guru, you've got this down, do not go into technology because it's going to frustrate the crap out of you. Because whatever you learn this year could be really irrelevant next year. And you could feel really good, like, you've mastered something, you've got this tool, you're a pro, you've got it. And then nobody cares. Like 5 years out, like, that was so old. We don't care anymore. So, that's the thing about the field. And it's been funny because I've had this parallel that I've been learning photography all over again, which has been a real delight. Um, and then let me fast forward for just a minute. So I wrote this chapter, and at the time I hadn't rebooted my career, and now I'm actually back working. And some of the very things that I have to do is learn all over again. So I'm laughing because literally just the other day, I was trying to learn something and I'm working from home and I'm here and I'm trying to figure out something and I was getting a little bit stuck and a little bit cranky to be honest, right? And like, you want to act like you can always learn and you never get frustrated, but I was frustrated. And then I thought about the chapter and I thought, this is so interesting because I'm living it now. Like I wrote it, but I'm living it right now because I'm back at the table. That's the way I refer to coming back to the field. I'm back at the table and I'm having to either relearn some things or learn some things new all over again. I'm sort of back in the rookie tester role and I'm having to learn a lot and I'm having to learn a lot all at the same time. And so I'm real like I'm living it right now.
What do you mean when you say you're back in the rookie testing role? How are you a rookie tester?
I don't like to admit this during the week. I really don't. Right? But I'm going to act like this is just you and I, right? I am a rookie all over again. right? Like I started as well, I didn't start as a software tester. I started as a tech writer, and then I really enjoyed breaking software, so it was just more fun to test software than it was to write about it. But I did it for a really long time, but I also then took a long break. And I took more than one break, right? Like I did the classic tester, test lead, test manager. Then I went out and did solo consulting. But for the last like decade-ish of my career, I'd been a director. I hadn't been back at the keyboard being a tester, you know?
So
I
you're saying you forgot how to be a tester?
I totally never forgot how to be a
Well,
tester.
then how can you say you're a rookie tester?
Okay,
Are you trying to be humble? Is that what you're trying to do?
I like that.
You're saying you're a rookie tester, but secretly you know you're not a rookie
I'm
tester.
going to give you another comparison. So I recently got my bicycle fixed and I'm super excited. And I live near some trails now. And I didn't bike at all last year, so that was a bummer. But so I'm back to biking. So I went out for a bike ride the other day and I did like an 8 mile thing and like that was fine. But I was exhausted and it was hard and I had to stop a few times and I was frustrated because I used to do 25 miles, right? Without like too much difficulty. And then I had to remind myself you need, so I'm living in the South now, so this expression comes up. I need to give myself some grace. I'm not up to going to 25-mile bike rides at this moment. I suspect I'll get back to that. And the same is true in testing. I am slower than I used to be. I feel like I've forgotten some things. I don't
Well,
think I'm
you're
being
saying you have
humble.
forgotten how to be a tester.
Maybe I feel slower than I used to be. And I think about it, there was a point where my home office, I had, I don't know, 8, 9, maybe 10 laptops. Like it was a lot. I had a couple
Yeah.
of benches. Like pretty, I had a lot of gear. And there was a point where I might literally be sitting at a table and have like 5 or 6 laptops practically on me, like literally on my lap. And when I was a true humming state, right? Like I might have all the gear in use doing something. And I was like at that real humming speed. I'm not at that. It's the same as my bike. Let's go backwards though. Let's talk about it. We're in a field where you're going to have to learn all the time. And one of the things you and I haven't talked about is like, do you know how you learn? Do you know your best like conditions to learn? You know, how do you get up to speed on something?
Yeah.
You
I'm
like
wary of all these people who talk about techniques of hacking your brain and
I just need quiet. I need to sit and read, and then I need to play. And then I read, and then I play. And then I
yeah.
observe, is what I'm
Okay.
reading make sense? And I am back to the
You
red
need
square.
space.
The fact that I was able to ask questions very recently and say, well, what about this and what about that? The interconnectedness of features
Yeah.
and ask questions that somebody in the product domain went, oh, I love that. I
So do
love
you find your learning works better when you're interacting with people or when you're by yourself?
I would say generally alone, but if there was one thing I really missed about an office, it's not the commute, it's not the meetings, it's not the lost time. I don't miss that at all. I really miss whiteboard sessions. So it's cool that you're able to do that because I do miss that. I do miss sitting and going through like system architecture and drawings and really walk the whole path. I miss that. I don't see a good replacement for that currently. Doesn't mean there isn't one, but I just currently
Well, as you see, I've got my little telestrator
it's a way to
that
do it.
works really well. It's an iPad running with a program called Mirroring 360, which allows it to put up a window on my desktop and so then I hook it into OBS and uh, I've got my Stream Deck, so I can pull up this telestrator at any time. And if the other people also have something like this, then it's great.
I should figure out something like that. One thing I really like about your drawings is you never let it slow you down that you're not a very good drawer. but
Thank you for the compliment. I've
yeah,
worked very hard
yeah.
on my drawing over the years.
But you get your concept
Backhanded. Oh,
across
sure.
instead of worrying about like stick figures and making it all pretty perfect. You're
No,
just
no,
like,
that's actually
see what I mean? You
that
know?
is actually is very important. That is very important. I decided that I was going to practice my drawing and I wasn't going to worry about I was going to worry about the essential qualities, the symbolic nature of the diagrams and not the prettiness of it. And I found that unlocked a lot of basic artistic ability in myself. And I wrote I drew the a number of the pictures for the book, which I thought that Wiley would have professional artists that would redraw them in a professional way, but
Yeah.
no, they did it. So I ended up
Oh,
just sticking with, and they didn't tell me that my own drawings were too stupid looking. So I we ended up using my little stupid looking drawings, but they're not that stupid looking. But they're clearly not the work of a professional graphic artist.
you're in the moment. You're getting
They're
the
honest. I like them because they're honest. They're a true expression of my reasonable explaining abilities, and it doesn't. You don't have to be a fantastic artist to get the point across on a whiteboard, and it just takes practice to come up with uh, ways of doing it. Having said that, sketch notes drive me crazy. I hate sketch notes.
You know what's funny? All the things you just said are exactly what you said to me about public speaking. You were the one who got me to speak at conferences. I shared that with
Right?
somebody
Yeah,
recently, and they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it was Jake."
yeah.
And I was like, I can't do that. And you're like, "Yeah,
You're quite good at it now.
you're honest. You're like, you're real, like, because you really do the work." And that's the whole thing with having worked as a director for a while. I got away from that. My hands were really kind of far from the keyboard. And now I really want my time back on the keyboard. I want to go back to my roots. I want to go back to what I originally loved, get the
Yeah,
hell out of the meetings. And sorry, I'm sure some
yeah,
people enjoy that their whole day. Um, and get back to that. And that was true. Uh,
yeah.
so
Right. Well,
that's
I
where I'm
love
coming.
testing. I love testing too. I wish that more people would pay me to do testing, but they're paying me to train testers, and that's at least second best.
Can
Uh,
I give you a possibility?
sure.
It only occurred to me somewhat recently. It occurs to me that the reason some people don't pay for testing is they don't actually want the information that you uncover. They
I
just
know.
want to be able to ship it. And if you come along and you observe things
Yeah.
and not confirm things, then you're blowing their whole schedule. They don't want the information. They don't want to know what it is you uncover.
That is a big problem in the testing business, a big problem in the critical thinking business. It's even a problem in law, because if of all people, lawyers you'd think would be paid to ferret out bad news for their clients and warn them about it. But even when you're dealing with lawyers, they will often say, "Well, I don't look into that because I don't want to know. Because if I knew, I'd have to do something about it. But if I don't know, I don't have to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And my hands are clean. And so I've experienced that when working with lawyers. And it's not an irrational point of view. It's just an irresponsible point of view.
Well, it's sad, right? It's a sad perspective. It's sort of
Always
like
hard to sell responsibility. People would much rather be rich than responsible.
I want to ask you a question. Can I do that?
Sure, yeah.
I want to know why this book is so important to you and why it took so long. I want to hear in your words like what this book means to you because I have a
How
sense of
long
it
take in your mind?
for you to explain it.
How long what is your impression of how long this book took to write?
It took a couple of years.
Well, it was 55 months from the time that the first email saying, James, you should do a book uh, on this. You should do it now. So that was 55 months since really the start of the project. But it's been 35 years in the making, because of what I'm writing about is stuff that I've been talking about, trying to develop for 35 years. So why does it take 35 years to write this? Why does it take 55 months from the point where I should already know all this stuff? And the reason is basically that I have a very high standard. I need to be proud of the book. I need to look at the book and say, this is the best I can do in this time frame. I could have done better if I had another year. There's a chapter I really wanted to add to the book that's not in the book, which is how to adopt rapid software testing.
Mm.
And I think it's an important chapter, but it was going to take me months to write it and research it and write it. And I have a lot of ideas about this that I tell people all the time, but as soon as I start writing things down, I want to go two levels deeper than when I speak. And because when I speak, people can point and click. They can say, "Can you say more about that? Can you develop a class on that?" And then I can run off and do just in time researching. But when I write a book, I have to do all the researching on all the levels immediately and put that in. That's why it takes a long time. So this is something that sums up my career. It's the
Yeah.
last book I will ever write. I'm not going through this again.
I'm not sure that that's
The second edition of this book, where I do add those chapters. It depends how popular the book is, but I'm not going to go through this. This, I mean, I could. Someone could pay me $1 million, and I would absolutely write a book for them. In fact, I
Mm.
have written books that were never published. That only one was 350 pages long, and four people ever saw it. But I was paid a couple of $100,000 to write it. That was a report for a court case, and it was a book length report, and
No.
and but the judge saw it, the opposing counsel saw it, but it was full of confidential information, and we won the court case, which I'm happy about. But they paid me a whole bunch of money to write that. So yeah, I'm talking about writing a book for free. I'm done with that.
Well, the
That
reason I'm asking and the reason I kind of want it recorded is just I know how much this book means to you. I know how much of like heart and soul you poured into it. And I think what might be valuable is for people to realize that you see this as like the book on testing. And you're
I do think it's the book that should have been written about testing in 1995 if people knew how to write it. It's the book I always wished that I could have read about testing that would have saved me years of searching, of seeking, and I hope to save other people time. I think the book will mostly be ignored by, especially by my rivals in the business. I'll just shrug and ignore it, and but it will bring aid and comfort to people who think like us, people who are more cosmopolitan, more social science oriented, more interested in the sweep of history, in the great history of human thought. Uh, Grand thinkers will find it to be an interesting book on testing rather than just a book of testing tactics and poorly thought out vocabulary, which is what most books on testing are. So
well,
I tried to elevate it beyond that.
I think the thing that's so important to me is how much people turn testing into a clerical task.
Right. It's
Frustrating that
detective
is.
work. It's detective work, and this is my book on how to be a software
And
detective.
you have to bring everything. You bring all of who you are and what you know and where you've been
Yeah,
to it. And
that's right.
that's why it is a job with some
Yeah.
intensity. But I've realized recently that a lot of people have worked somewhere where they've seen testing executed as a clerical task. And I
Yeah.
have literally heard from some people, well, that's how it's done because I've seen it done that way. And
Yeah.
it can be very hard to be in a setting where you say, you may have seen it done that way. I don't question that. But was it any good? That's
See,
the thing.
that's right there. That's an important difference between how we think of rapid software testing methodology and how most people think about testing. You see, when someone says, I've seen it done that way, they're taking no ownership. They're taking no responsibility.
But in
Well,
some ways, wait, hang on. In some ways, they're taking too much responsibility because they're looking at you and basically saying, I know how it's done because I've seen it done this way. Well, I've seen people take a car and drive it into a tree. It doesn't mean that's the way you should drive.
say that. You could say that they're taking too much responsibility in the sense that they are trying to protect a sick and broken system, which is the only system they know, maybe. And so they have a misguided sense of they have to defend that instead of throwing it away for the trash that it is. But it's what maybe gives them a sense of self-worth. But what I'm saying about responsibility is everything in rapid software testing is something that I reinvented for myself. Even if I got the idea from somewhere else, I passed it through my own filters of experience and thought until I felt like, yeah, this makes sense to me.
Mhm.
Everything. And now when I present it to people, I say, you need to put this through your filters to see
Yeah,
if it makes sense to you. Don't just take my word for it. And
right.
there are chapters in this book that are contributed chapters by colleagues of mine, by people who took something I said, changed it because they didn't quite agree with it, and made it their own. And I thought that was wonderful. And I wanted to show that that's the spirit of RST. It's a personal methodology. It's not authoritarian, it is anti authoritarian.
Well, and you also have to adapt for the environment you're in. I am a person who's very lucky in that I've worked in a whole array of software from, e-commerce, manufacturing, medical devices, travel, and some of the things that I learn in one domain, they don't make sense somewhere else. So,
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
you
that's the
adapt.
context driven aspect of it. But of course, to be context driven, you have to be skilled in thinking through testing problems. So context drivenness isn't just doing different things in different situations. It's knowing why you're doing the different things in the different situations and to be able to be accountable, to be responsible for your behavior. Let's let's wrap it up. Karen, thank you for having this conversation with me and letting me use my telestrator to James
Well,
Plain things. I hope that
yeah,
was
that's right.
right.
Exactly. That's probably
I
is a
wish you had your own telestrator that you could explain things back to me. That'd
I
be
should probably work on it, but you probably helped me, head tripping tester, and just come back to the table and just trying to get back up to speed. So
so.
thank
Good luck with your test project. I know you're going to feel up to speed very soon
you.
and be contributing like like the tester that you are and always have been. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
All right. Thank you. Take care.